Hello, hello. I'm really excited to be here today. I'm going to dive straight into the secret to effective conscious parenting. This session is for you if you feel that you've been doing your best to do conscious parenting or gentle parenting, but like something still feels off. A lot of people come to me and they say, I want to do conscious parenting, but something's kind of not quite working, or um, or I want to, gentle parent, but my child isn't gentle. So this is for you if that is you. I see you, I've been there. I'm going to go through some things that I think are challenging with conscious parenting, and then also give you some bite-sized tool that you can use to see if this approach resonates with you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my 6-week program at the end, and if that sounds like something that you're interested in, I would love for you to join us. Feel free to ask me some questions at the end if you have any, or you can reach out to me via email or socials. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet, hopefully to no more than 30 minutes, because I'm a busy parent, just like you are. I'm just going to get straight to the point. Okay. So if this sounds like you, if you've read all the books, you're following the parenting accounts on Instagram or Facebook, but you're still finding yourself feeling triggered, you're still finding like this feels harder than it should be. You're trying to stay calm, but there's certain behaviors from your child, which we all know is just things that are getting triggered with us, leaving you feeling dysregulated. You're not quite sure what to do. As parents, we have so many things to do, so much mental labor. It just can really feel like a lot sometimes. So I want to try to make this easier for you. If you have been doing the work, if you have been doing some kind of therapy, but you still feel like something's not quite there, like something's missing, and whether you know a little bit about human design or nothing at all, absolutely doesn't matter. But if you do know a bit about human design, but you're not really sure how to apply it in parenting, because it is quite different applying it to a child than it is to an adult, then this is also going to be for you. So this is for you if you want to feel confident, not just in how you respond. If you want to truly understand your child and what they actually need, not just what you think they need. If you want to actually break cycles without burning yourself out trying to do it, and actually understand what that means, not just in terms of you, but on a whole generational level, past and future. And if you want to heal your own patterns whilst raising your child with intention, because these are also not the same thing, which I will go into. So this is what we're going to cover in today's session. And like I said, I'm going to keep it short and sweet to 30 minutes. So why conscious parenting alone isn't working, the missing pieces that nobody's talking about, or not many people are talking about, what makes parenting feel easier and more effective. It's going to be a live bonus for those of you. There's going to be a bonus for those of you that hear live, and then how to take the next step if this resonates with you. So in case we haven't met before, my name's Sophie. I'm a parenting and reparenting coach and human design guide. I've been using human design for over a decade, personally and professionally. So it's essentially a language that I have learned over this time. It is something that is quite complex, and I think that's what can put a lot of people off initially, is that it is, I mean, I'll go in to show you kind of some of the depths of it, but it is, it's a lot. It is learning another language. And so I like to simplify that so that you don't have to, because as I said, you've got lots of other things to do. It's not really ideal to be learning another language at the same time as when you're raising children. Fortunately, I learned this before my son was born, so I was quite fluent in it before that happened. But it wasn't a magic pill. I still had lots of work to do, which I'll go on to tell you about. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist, neurolinguistic programming, and emotional freedom technique practitioner, and a shamanic healer. And I've created a parenting by human design program called Flourish, which I'll tell you more about in a moment. So the reason, I just want to tell you a little bit about why I'm doing this, because I think it's really important if you're looking at potentially working with somebody as to why they're doing it. I didn't just jump on a human design bandwagon and do it because it's trendy. This is why it's really come about for me. So in the last 10 or so years of my professional life as a hypnotherapist, I really came to understand, not just on a theoretical level, but on a professional level, how important the first 7 years of life are. It's where we have our greatest conditioning around food, around decision making, how we learn, what our strengths and gifts are, what our vulnerabilities are. And I was working basically in a lot of hotels and wellness centers in Thailand. And with every client that I saw, 99% of the time, even though they thought their issue in their adult life was like, from the last 10 years, 5 years or whatever, 99% of the time, it always went back to the first 7 years of their childhood. Like, one that always sticks with me is a woman that said she'd been having panic attacks for the last 10 years. and I regressed her, which means to take her back in hypnotherapy. And boom, this instant subconscious memory came up of when she was 7 years old. And it was so real. It was so in her body. It was so in her psyche, in her subconscious. After that session, boom, we were able to reframe it, heal it. She didn't have another panic attack. This is how, not just how effective hypnotherapy is, but how deeply things are stored in our subconscious that we don't realize that they're running the show. Because our subconscious mind is actually 90% of what's going on. Our conscious mind, what we're aware of thinking about, is only 10%. So there's so much going on underneath the surface in our subconscious mind, in our body, that we're not aware of. And I started using human design like in the background of my hypnotherapy practice, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, to kind of give me this map to understand where somebody's strengths and vulnerabilities were, where they had that potential to be conditioned, and where they were supposed to kind of be shining, so that I could use that to really fast track their results. And that's exactly what it did, because it helped me move from generic theories to really personalizing everything for that unique individual, because everybody is completely different. So the reason that I became then passionate about using it with parents and children is because I was like, well, hang on, I've been helping all these adults to heal from things in their childhood. Wouldn't it be cool if we just didn't, mess our kids up in the first place? Obviously, nobody intentionally does that, but through helping parents to understand their children at an early age, or even when they're teenagers, it's never too late. It really helps you to nurture them. You can observe them and you can nurture them. Okay. It also helps you to understand yourself. It helps you to understand who you really are, especially when sometimes as a parent, you can kind of lose yourself in that transition, how you got conditioned or suppressed. So when you weren't allowed to be who you really are, and why you get triggered. Because if you're trying to raise your child to be their authentic self and you weren't allowed to be, that's going to be really inherently triggering for you. But we can understand exactly what parts of you were suppressed through looking at your human design. So healing yourself breaks generational cycles. Okay. So past to even, how you feel towards your parents, even potentially, as I'm witnessing now, how your parents are, and then them kind of reflecting on things. It can really heal, generations. And then also obviously with our children through into the future. But human design alone isn't enough. There are other parenting by human design programs. I haven't seen any that kind of go into the level of depth and, holistic analysis that I use, because just learning human design is not enough. It's going to be very surface level. It's kind of like, oh, that's nice to know. But we also need the healing tools for us as parents. We also need the communication practices for us and things that we can also teach to our children. This is why I combine all of the things that I do to go much more below the surface. I always live by this motto of what you learned late in life, teach your children early. So in my work, in my program, I've also got emotional regulation techniques and compassionate communication tools tailored to different stages of development. So you can teach the things that you're learning to your children relative to what stage they are in their development in their life as well. So conscious parenting, I believe, still feels hard for many people, is because it's kind of, again, it's surface level. It's sort of looking at one thing. It's mainly looking at, and this is brilliant, this is not to knock it, but it's mainly looking at what didn't I have and what do I want my child to have? How do I want to do things differently? But again, it's very surface level, okay? Because your children are completely different to you. If you don't have this clear map of your child, if you don't understand how they are different, then you're still going to miss the mark, okay? You're trying to emotionally regulate, but probably no one taught you how. There are also different ways of emotionally regulating. It's not the same for everybody. This is why you could try something with one child and maybe it works, try it with another and it doesn't. Human design can help you to understand how to emotionally regulate based on your individual design. It's, again, everything's personalized. We're being expected to model what we were never shown. Most of us are not taught how to emotionally regulate or how to communicate with empathy and compassion. So it's really like, if you are doing this, I just want to give you, myself, a pat on the back, because it is a lot to do. I feel like, this generation of parents, we're taking on so much. And I really want to show people more easier and effective ways to do it, so that you don't feel like it's frustrating, you don't give up, and you can actually do it, and you can actually feel these moments of success because you are moving forward. It's never going to be perfect. We're never going to get it 100%, but you really need to give yourself grace through this process and just find things that work for you. But the biggest challenge I feel really with conscious parenting is that you're reflecting on what you didn't get, which is great, and that's going to help you to heal your inner child. But that might not be what your children actually need. So obviously, all children are going to need love, connection, support, attachment. That's a given, right? But it might be that you needed more nurturing, more guidance. And so you're like, I really want to be there for my children. I'm going to give them this and this. I'm going to be their best friend. But that might not be what they need. They might need more freedom and independence. And I was talking about this with one of the students from, another round of my course. And then she had this massive realization when she looked at her mum's chart and she was like, oh, that explains why she was like this. And this is not what I needed. And then she looked at her children and she was like, oh, but that is what they need. Right. So instead of her going, well, I got this is not what I needed, so I'm going to give my kids this. She was like, oh, that's not what I needed, but that is what they need. So it really allows you to separate yourself from your child, to not kind of get all enmeshed, and to really understand, this is my healing journey and this is what my child needs. And I just don't think that there's anything else that really can help you to understand, again, that uniqueness of each individual person. I've never seen any other system or tool that can do that. So like I said, when you look at human design, if you look at this, you're like, what is that? What does that mean? It's essentially, the way you can think about it is your soul blueprint. Okay. It shows, your triggers, your children's needs, etc. The reason it looks so complex is because it's a combination of several different systems. You can think of it in a nutshell as like astrology on steroids, but it's essentially astrology, the Kabbalah, the I Ching, the chakra system, quantum mechanics, all rolled into one, right? Which is why, like I said, it is like learning a different language, but you don't need to learn it all. You just need to learn parts that are relevant to parenting. Some people will want to go and learn the whole thing. Some people want to go and study more. That's great. That's not obviously going to be for everybody. And, there are time constraints around that. So what I like to do is take things that simplify it for people and then, let them actually use it day to day. So like I said, parenting is very much about, it's this parallel journey of healing yourself and raising your child. They're parallel journeys. They're not the same thing. And I really want you to understand the distinction between those, because I tend to see in conscious parenting, gentle parenting, that's just kind of all the same thing. And I feel that, we're going to sort of realize later on, yes, we've done some healing, but we haven't quite broken cycles the way that we wanted to, because we've just projected what we didn't have onto our children. And like I said, that might not be what they actually need. So parenting brings up all kinds of things for us. It shows us our core wounds, not just what we didn't have though. And again, this is where I think there's a missing gap here in just generic conscious parenting. It's also really important to understand who you weren't allowed to be. And again, your human design chart can show you who you're designed to be, where you're designed to, express yourself, where you're designed to be consistent. And again, depending on your upbringing and the charts and everything like that of your parents and where you were in society, there's going to be parts of you that might be a natural expression of who you are, but you weren't allowed to be that. You were too this, you were too that, you were too much, you were too this. And so those are parts of you that are suppressed. And that, in my experience, personally and professionally, can manifest as sickness in our body. It can manifest as depression. It can manifest as so many things, because for years, for decades even, we've been suppressing parts of ourselves, and our body, our soul doesn't want that to happen. So more often than not, it comes out in a physical way. It's definitely happened to me with things with my throat, with my thyroid, because I was told at a young age at school to stop talking. So I actually did. I had to have speech therapy for a while. And then, throughout my teenage years, even into my 20s, I was super quiet. I tried to make myself as small as possible so that I wouldn't get shut down again. And there was a lot of suppression, and that gradually came up in my body. And yeah, it's just very interesting. That happens with quite a lot of people. And, I want that not to happen with our children. I want us to be able to allow our children to be their fullest selves. That's the reason that I do this. So we can really just allow them to be themselves, and for them not to have to go through this therapy and soul searching later on in life. So human design also shows you how to support your nervous system and your emotional regulation in a personalized way, which I'm going to explain to you in a moment. So I want to just keep it simple for this class as well, and just give you a couple of things that you can look at and take away and reflect on or dive deeper into. When you look at a human design chart, and I'm going to give you a link at the end as to where you can download one from my website, which will give you a little bit more information and explanation around it too. But when you look at it, I know it can look really complex, okay? I don't want you at the moment to even think about what all of these things mean. The only thing I want you to look at when you get your chart and your children's charts is to look at this for the moment, okay? On the left is my chart, on the right is my son, okay? I want you to look at, when you look at your charts, one like next to each other, helps to print them off. I want you to look at what centers are colored in, which shapes are colored in. I don't want you to look at the colors of them. I don't want you to worry about the numbers. I don't want you to worry about any of that. I literally want you to look at which ones are colored in, okay, and which ones are white. And then I want you to look at your child or your children's charts, which ones are colored in and which ones are white, okay? You can even screenshot this if you need to. Whenever a center is colored in, and these never change, by the way, your human design doesn't change. This is what's set from birth. Where it's colored in is where energy is being projected out. It's having a consistent sense of that energy. And for the moment, I don't want you to worry about which center represents what. I just want you to look at what's colored in and what's not. So where something is colored in, energy is being projected out. Where something is white, it's not what you don't have, right? But it's where you're taking something in from other people and often amplifying it. So where you have something defined, this is me here, where you have something colored in, and where they don't is where you're potentially conditioning your children. Where they have something colored in and you don't is usually where you're being triggered. Okay, so I'm going to go into me and my son on the next slide. So for my son, if we look at what I have got colored in here, I've got these 4. He has got those 3, but not this one. You see, this one is white here. So that's where I am potentially conditioning him. Now, this center is about thinking, it's about conceptualization, answers, opinions, ideas, and it can be for better or worse, right? But having the awareness of where I'm potentially conditioning him allows me to change my behavior, the communication, the things that I say to him, to make sure that I am allowing his expression, not projecting mine onto him. So if I didn't have this awareness, I could unintentionally, just energetically, be making him feel like he has to be certain about things. He has to know the correct answers. He has to have fixed opinions, fixed ideas. That's how I'm designed to be. That's not how he's designed to be. He is designed to be more open-minded, very fluid in his thinking, kind of just like, questioning things and just, have this real open mind. He's not designed to have fixed opinions. So what I can do and what I have done from a very early age, from birth, even before he was, when he was pre-verbal, was encourage him to have flexible thinking. I always tell him, it's okay. You can just say, I don't know. It's okay not to know something. There's like tons of possibilities. There's loads of answers. I say, what do you think it could be? If he asks me something, rather than me answering with what I think the correct answer is, what do you think it could be? And I just really encourage that sense of open-mindedness and not knowing. Now, this is one of the centers, and I won't go into this too much, but this is one of the centers that, as you can imagine, is quite susceptible to being conditioned in a traditional school environment. Put your hand up. Who knows the correct answer? Put your hand up. Who knows? And so this is when a child has this white, undefined, they are susceptible to that kind of conditioning and feeling like they have to be sure about things. They have to know the correct answer. So again, human design gives us so many things to work with as parents. We'll be coming to, making decisions for our children as well, and just kind of having these things to understand who they are and how they're designed to be. The other way around, my son has a lot of energy defined, as you can see. I'm getting triggered by certain energies he's expressing. Again, this is not intentional. This is just the way it's happening. It's under the surface. He's not intentionally trying to trigger me. Now, what is going to feel the most triggering is going to depend on my own conditioning. So my childhood, society, culture, etc. But here, these 4 are the ways I'm potentially going to get triggered by him. Now, I know through my own, self-awareness, through my own journey, that my 2 biggest areas, centers, where I'm feeling these triggers are the solar plexus, which is about emotions, and the root center, which is this pressure to do and to get things done. So what does that allow me to be able to do? Well, through that awareness, it allows me to be able to focus my healing on emotional regulation and focus my healing on, that kind of just taking my time, not rushing through things. And for me, because it's come up in my body, adrenal support as well. So supplements for adrenal support. But it allows me to basically focus my healing. It allows me to have a starting point of like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling triggered, I'm reacting. Where do I start? And again, otherwise, I feel like we're just kind of like throwing spaghetti at a wall and not really having a key place to start. So looking at your human design chart, and there are multiple other places I could go into and pinpoint exact places for people to start. But I just want to give you some simple things to look at. You know, these give you real clear clear tools, a clear map of where to start and then what you can do, rather than just trying to do everything all at once. And like I said, I just don't know anything else that can give you this level of depth. So again, this is just a snapshot of things. Essentially, when we've got a center that is white, that is not defined, these tend to be the kind of shadow patterns that are coming up for us. All energy is on a spectrum. So we're not destined to like stay in this shadow pattern, right? We're actually designed to kind of be in this higher expression, this wisdom. But this is what, through conditioning, we tend to kind of fall into these not self strategies or these shadow patterns. Okay, so without that awareness, my son, as he gets older, may fall into this pattern of trying to be certain, trying to be correct about everything, you know, trying to fit in, all of these things, trying to kind of just be like, yeah, I know the answer, even though he's not. And this is just going to create a whole ton of conditioning for him in his life, right? People that have an undefined solar plexus, as I do, we tend to avoid truth and confrontation because we don't know how to deal with emotional energy. We don't know how to emotionally regulate, and we just kind of like hide away and like, oh God, I just won't, you know, deal with that in all kinds of things, you know, particularly it's going to come up in relationships. So knowing these things early on, we can help to, you know, nurture our child in areas where they might be vulnerable. And it also gives us tools to be able to heal ourselves, to move from those shadow expressions into that wisdom. Okay, so the wisdom of, for me, of having an undefined solar plexus is, you know, being aware of emotions, feeling okay with them, not shying away from them, being able to have, you know, truthful conversations with people. And that's moving into the high expression of the wisdom. It can also give us clues as to where, you know, things that are going on in our body, what's going on. Is it somewhere where we are conditioned or somewhere where we're suppressing our energy? So there are so many different things that it links to. And like I said, so many different like tangents that you can go off on. But I really keep it all simple with what I do. Like I said, I've learned all of this. I know all of this. So I can give people the tools that they need, the guidance that they need without everybody else having to learn all of this. Because it's a lot. It's been 10 years, more than 10 years for me. So another tip that I just want to give you, something else that you can play with to take away, is really about emotions. This is, you know, there's so much talk of emotional regulation as well. There should be. I think very few of us had emotions modeled to us in a healthy way. Very few of us were taught how to emotionally regulate. That's why I think it's such a big thing now, and it's such a thing that people still struggle with, because like I said, we're trying to model things to our kids that were not modeled to us. We're trying to understand how to emotionally regulate and teach our kids at the same time, on top of everything else that we're doing. And it's just a lot. So I just want you to, again, look at your chart, look at your children's charts, and see with your solar plexus, so this one over on the right here, which is to do with emotions, who in your family has it defined or colored in and who doesn't. Okay. And this is going to really allow you to understand who in your family sets the emotional tone, how the emotional dynamics are. Okay. So if it's colored in, you or your child, that person is consistently projecting out emotional energy, whether that's, you know, they're in a high wave, whether they're in a low wave, but they're consistently going through emotions. People who have that undefined, who have it white, they're like sponges, right? They're taking in this emotional energy that's being projected out around them. And that can feel really uncomfortable, especially if they don't know that it's not theirs, right? And they're kind of like feeling like it's theirs, or they feel like they have to fix it, or it's just, oh. And this is what leads them into this, I just go back to this slide, later on in life, this avoiding confrontation and truth, because oh God, I don't want to deal with this. I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to release these emotions. I don't know these emotions aren't mine, right? And as children, you just have this natural tendency to want to fix them. You realize you can't fix them because it's not your energy. And so you just kind of like hide away. Okay. And this obviously affects, you know, later on in life as well. Regulation tools, though, can be tailored to your design. So again, like I said, emotional regulation, great, but it's not going to be the same for each person, okay? And if we literally just take the definition of the solar plexus, whether it's colored in or whether it's not, even then, there are two separate ways of emotionally regulating. Anyone who has it colored in, you need to feel your feelings. You need to allow yourself to go through the emotions, to process them. And there are also different specific ways that I give people depending on which of the numbers, which of the gates are activated there, whether that's through movement, through dance, through expression, through solitude, through touch. Like there are different things that people need to emotionally regulate or to co-regulate depending on what their specific activations are within that center or pointing towards that center. If it's white, if it's undefined, that person is going to have a tendency to take in other people's emotions. So they need space, usually by themselves, to be able to release that energy. An example that I've given clients before is, let's imagine you've got two children, right? And one is, because this is also really helpful in managing dynamics. One child is emotionally defined, so they have it colored in. The other child is not. Sometimes the other child that is not colored in can appear to be more sensitive but it's not their emotions. They're taking in and amplifying emotions from other people around them, especially if, let's say, you've got a family of 4 and 3 people have a defined solar plexus and are emotional, projecting out emotional energy, and this one is not. That's a lot of emotional energy for them to be taking in, and not just taking in, but amplifying it as well. So they can appear to be the sensitive child. And I noticed that in someone that's very close to me as well. The one who does not have the defined solar plexus appears to be highly emotional, but they're actually just taking in energy from other people. Okay, so it's this big aha thing. I got labeled as a sensitive child. I have an undefined solar plexus. I know now, and it has been so helpful for me, especially as a therapist, to know that I have that potential to take in energy from others. So then I will just tell myself, I'm a sieve, not a sponge. I allow this energy to come in. I don't take it in. I don't hold it. I don't try to fix it. So I just allow myself to witness it. Okay. It's been more challenging with a child that is emotionally defined, right? Because it has been triggering for me. And those have been things that I need to work on. And I have noticed in myself so much, especially the last couple of years, that when he's upset, I wanted to try to fix it because it felt uncomfortable for me. And I didn't want to feel like that. And so I would try to make him happy instead of just allowing the emotions. So there are so many realizations that I've even had, even with knowing human design for a long time, that I've had when I'm actually putting it into practice and I'm actually, constantly in flow with this other being all the time who's very different from me and understanding what I need and what he needs and how they're different things. So as I was saying with my example, so if you've got 2 children, one who's got a defined solar plexus, got it colored in, and one who doesn't, there might be a tendency to take the child with the defined solar plexus out of the room when they're having, the child with the undefined solar plexus, the sensitive one, out of the room if they're having big emotions. But what I would actually recommend to do is take the child who's projecting out the emotions, even, and you would know that through human design, and help them to go into a safe space to regulate, whilst letting the child who is undefined, letting them know it's not their fault, etc., etc. You can use this also, if you have a defined solar plexus as a parent and you're feeling a lot of emotions, communication is always key in any relationship. Tell your child, Mama's feeling a lot of big feelings at the moment. I need to just go and have a few minutes to myself. It's nothing to do with you. It's nothing that you've done. I just need a bit of time to just kind of process these emotions. You continue playing here and doing whatever you're doing. And that is going to help that child to feel safe in the presence of emotions and know that it's not about them. They don't need to blame themselves. They don't need to fix it, so that they don't go into this shadow pattern later on in life. Another huge regulation tip is something that if you get your chart from my website, you'll see it will say environment. Now, your environment is where your body feels the most comfortable. This is something that is usually unconscious. You're not aware of it. You can use this for your own regulation and for your child. It's going to say either caves, markets, kitchens, mountains, valleys, or shores. This is not literal. You don't have to go and build a cave in your garden and put yourself in a cave. It's metaphorical. Now, both my son and I happen to be caves, and I can even, reflect back to my childhood and understand when I was upset, I went into my room, shut the door, put my back against the wall. It was this was key behavior that I did. So our children are doing these things naturally. We just need to see it, observe it, and understand where it's coming from. So we both like to be in safe spaces with our back protected, kind of against a wall. We need to be able to see what's coming and going. We don't like to be scared easily. These are ways that we feel safe. This is like a caves kind of environment person. Okay. If you Google, you'll get various things about these. And it's something that I go through in my course as well. It was even something when I was getting really triggered. I had quite bad postpartum depression. And so when my son was a baby and he was crying and I was feeling very triggered, I actually just, when I was holding him, I would put my back against the wall. And even that gave my body such a sense of support, such a sense of comfort and relief that was, again, really uniquely personalized to me. And that was a huge help for me too. Hot tip, this also affects a child's learning environment. So in my 6-week course, one of the modules we go into is really like focused on learning and, how our children learn, looking at their learning style. And so a child, if they're not in the best environment, and this is challenging in a traditional classroom situation, right? Because you've got 20 or 30 kids and they can't necessarily all be in their correct environment. But there are little tweaks that you can make in terms of, what chair they're sitting at in the room to help their body feel safer, to help their body feel more comfortable and receptive to learning wherever they are. Particularly if you're unschooling or homeschooling, this is also huge because and definitely if you've got more than one child, you can again make those personalizations according to the child so that their body feels safe and supported wherever they are. So human design is not, I just want to go over what it is and what it's not, because I think some people maybe sometimes sell it as a magic pill. Big red flag, it's not. Nothing is a magic pill. It's not easy to learn and apply by yourself. I have had clients that are like, oh, I'll just go off and do it by myself. And it's overwhelming. There's endless rabbit holes. And you can end up getting things wrong because there are a lot of things in human design that contradict one another. I can see that because I've studied it for years by looking at a chart, be like, oh, there's that and that. So, this kind of outweighs this. And I do that in my head and then just tell the parent, I tell you what you need to know rather than kind of just going into all this complex stuff. But there are going to be some people that want to go into it and want to learn more, and that's great, but that's not for everybody. That's not for everybody. So it's not easy to learn by yourself unless you've got loads and loads of time, which, not many people do, not many parents do. It's not just another personality test like Myers-Briggs or Enneagram or a trendy label, even though, some people sell it as is trendy. Like I said, a lot of people are selling these, oh, it's this magic pill. It's not. But it doesn't have to be complicated. If you've got the right person to guide you, it can actually simplify things. It's all about having that understanding of it with what you need, not getting overwhelmed with all these things you don't need to know. It is a highly effective way for you to understand yourself and your child on a deeper level. Like I said, I don't know anything else that could show you this level of depth. I don't know any other system that could show you the patterns of triggers and dynamics that you wouldn't have spotted otherwise. Sometimes things can just come up through coincidence, but I don't know any other system where you can see this. The reason I love human design is it's visual. Most people are highly visual. You can really see, oh, they have this. I don't, I have this. This is where we differ. And it gives you this really clear visual map. If you've got more than one child in your family as well, putting them all up, and just looking at them, even if you don't understand what the charts mean, just helps your subconscious to kind of understand how you're different. It's a roadmap both for parenting and reparenting. So you can respond with awareness instead of reacting from old wounds. Like I said, your reactions are coming from your subconscious, which is 90% of who you are, right? So once you start to bring that subconscious, those things into your conscious awareness, that's when you can start to heal things. And it can be completely personalized. It's practical. It's rooted in real life application, especially when, as I do, you pair it with emotional regulation and communication tools. So it reveals all these things for you as a parent. It's going to reveal your authentic self, so you can start to reclaim those parts of you that were suppressed. It shows you where you're going to take in other people's energies for your children, maybe your partners, and where you get triggered. You can understand what your core wounds, patterns, and blind spots are. Your decision-making strategy, which you may or may not be following. Some adults, it's kind of 50-50 when I read a chart for an adult, whether they're actually making decisions in their natural way or not, whether they're making it from their head or whether they're truly making it from their body in different ways. Your strengths and your gifts that you might have suppressed, and also your unique way of processing emotions and stress. There's certain things that I will, reveal in my course where stress shows up in your body again, so you can kind of notice that straight away without it taking hold and becoming something that's kind of more intense. For children, it's going to show you their natural strengths and gift before a teacher says, oh, this is what they're good at. You can see it. Obviously, you don't kind of like then push them in that way, but you can see it very, very early on, okay, before they even develop. How they learn best, so their learning style, that can support you then in educational choices that you make, or tweaks that you might make, or conversations that you have with teachers, again, to help support them better. What nourishes them and supports them, their natural way of making decisions, which might be different from you. I have to consistently remind myself, even though I've been doing this a long time, that I make very fast decisions and my son doesn't. And it feels frustrating for me sometimes, and that's okay. And I just have to remind myself to give him time. Last year, I think it was some point last year, he said to me, I'll just hurry up and decide. And I was like, oh God, no, 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 take your time, take your time. Um, it's frustrating sometimes. We want to kind of have things our way, and we just see the world through our own filter. So this really allows you to see people for who they are, and particularly with your children, to nurture them for who they are. It's going to allow you to see your child's potential areas of conditioning and vulnerability, not so you can completely protect them, but like I explained in the example of my son, so you can not project your own stuff onto them, and you can just kind of help them to move into more of that sense of wisdom than get caught up in that conditioning in their shadow. And it's going to show you their quirks and sensitivities and what makes them thrive. So, I had a client from a past round, and she was like, oh, my daughter does this and this. Oh, now I've just realized it's because of this and this and this in her chart. So you have these kind of aha moments, these light bulb moments all the time. It's like, oh, that's why they do that. That's cool. And then it's a unique part of them that just makes them who they are. And it's not anything that's wrong or weird or I mean, it is different, but it's just who they are. And that's beautiful to be able to see that. So these are all the things that I think makes parenting feel easier. When you can heal these triggers, when you can respond instead of react, when you can take a breath, when you can recognize this sensation in your body is coming up that's usually your kind of this thing that comes up before you snap or before you shout, and you start to recognize, you start to slow those down because you're understanding where the triggers come from, and you've got these tools that are personalized to you for change. That's when you start actually breaking patterns. Awareness of your own patterns, like I've said before, nearly everything's in your subconscious. Understanding how your child is different from you, how they're uniquely wired, and that's not what you needed is not what they need. Letting go of guilt and second guessing because you understand what's happening, especially again when you go into an educational setting and you're being told this and this and this about your child. It can make you second guess things and question things, and maybe question even your own intuition. Because most of us, when we're being told something by somebody in a position of authority, and most of us are conditioned to see a teacher or a doctor or someone like that in a position of authority and maybe just naturally kind of take their explanation, having this awareness can actually help you think, well, hang on, is that right? Is that my child, or is there something else going on? It can help you. I have a lot of people that come to me going, oh, my child's been diagnosed with ADHD and da-da-da. And I'm not in a position to say, no, they don't have that, but I can look at other aspects of their chart to help the parent have more understanding of why these things might be coming up. And again, then they can have those choices in ways that they want to. They basically feel more confident and more informed. And also communicating in a way that your child actually hears. I think so many of us grew up not feeling seen, heard, or understood. And this is a way of, again, you healing yourself, you seeing your child. And in my program, I actually go into ways of how to communicate with more empathy, how to actually hear each other. And like I said, this is tailored to different stages of development so that everybody gets their needs met. Because sometimes this can happen in conscious and gentle parenting too. We so want our children to have a different childhood and a future than we did, that we can suppress our own needs, again, unintentionally. So it's not about, human design is not about, well, this trumps this. It's about seeing everybody as an individual. And then when I bring in compassionate communication, it's about speaking in ways so that everybody gets their needs met. Because it's no good you continually suppressing yourself just because you kind of want to, champion your child. It needs to be in a way where everybody gets their needs met. That's how you're going to create more harmony in your home and your family. So as I mentioned, I've got this 6-week live group program that's coming up. It's not just human design, it's human design simplified without losing the magic, but it's also personalized emotional regulation techniques. It's also compassionate communication that is tailored to different stages of development. For children, also for parents and co-parents as well. It's going to help with partners. This is really about this parallel journey of you raising your children whilst healing yourself. Like I said, it's not just, I think conscious parenting tends to just kind of package that all into one. And I do believe it's like this parallel journey of two different things. It's not, this work is not just about trying to break cycles and using that as a trendy keyword. It's about actually doing it, because I have seen this happen in my own life. I've seen it I've heard the feedback from like other clients. This actually breaks cycles. I even, like I said, I'm here living with my parents at the moment. My mother is reflecting on her own things and asking me questions about how she raised me, right? Not through anything I'm saying, and it's not done with any animosity. There's no blame. It's this full level of acceptance, and human design allows you to see each individual for who they are. I can look at my parents' charts and be like, oh, well, that's why that happened. So it's not their fault because they didn't know any of this. They were doing the best with what they had. And so, like I said, it's healing on so many generational levels. So it's for parents who want to raise emotionally healthy, autonomous, internally validated, and confident kids who don't need therapy later on in life. Essentially, the work I've been doing over the last 10 years with adults, I want that to not be a thing in the future, like doing myself out of business. Like I don't, it breaks my heart when, even when people, clients say, oh, I had a good childhood, but da, 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 there's always something. There's always something that's there. There's always some kind of trauma, whether it was a big T trauma or a little T trauma. There's always something that's gone on in the childhood that affects us later on in life. This program is for people that are tired of second guessing themselves, feeling like it's not working, and you want personalized guidance. It doesn't matter if you have heard of human design, if you know anything about what it is, whether you're brand new, whether you're intermediate, you will learn something within this. And it is all, like I said, it's all broken down to be made simple and tailored for you. The way that it's formatted is in pre-recorded bite-sized videos and audios, because I'm fully aware that sometimes it's easier to listen to an audio when something else is going on. Maybe, you've got a young child and they're having a nap and you can still listen to an audio. You can watch and listen to them anytime. It goes in a specific order. So then every week there'll be a live weekly question and answer session, for calls, for direct support, so for hot seat coaching, where you can ask me about that particular module. There's also a WhatsApp group that is open for questions anytime. So you get ongoing support from me. So if you can't join the lives, it absolutely doesn't matter. If you want to ask something and it's like, oh God, that week has passed, or that's not until then, you can ask stuff anytime. So throughout the 6 weeks, you've got that WhatsApp group as well. There's also a supportive community of like-minded parents who are joining now, and also a lot of past students. There's lifetime access to all recorded sessions. There's cheat sheets, practical tools, scripts, visual guides. There's an option. I've got 3 more spaces for the VIP upgrade, which includes 2 private one-to-one 90-minute sessions with me. This is the last time that I am going to be offering this, because I've upgraded it so much this time. This is the last time I'm offering it, where you get free access to any future rounds. So there will be students that are coming back from previous rounds that I've allowed to join this for free. If you join this round, you will also be allowed to join the next round for free. I intend to run it going forward 3 or 4 times a year. This is the last time I'm offering that. Other times, if you join later on, you will still be able to access future sessions, but there will be an additional charge or a membership fee. So this is a really good time to join if you think that it's for you. Here is some feedback that I've had. You can screenshot this or you can read this. This is, direct from the mouths of people that have done it. And every time I read this, it almost brings tears to my eyes, because I really, like I said, I told you about why I'm doing this, because of having worked with adults. I'm so passionate about this. I know how much of a difference it's making. And like I said, on just so many generational levels, not just for parents, not just for children, but also kind of going backwards, going into the future. So I feel so grateful that I'm able to do this work and do it from the perspective that I do. So I cannot wait to do this next round. I'm so excited that I have refined it even more. And like every time I do it, I refine it more and more. And I feel like this is just going to be world's part. These are testimonials from previous rounds, right? And it's exponentially better this time. So I'm super excited to do this next one in October. So for those of you that are here live, I am going to pop in the chat in a moment the coupon code so you can get a free copy of my ebook, Decoded. Even if you're not here live, you can still go ahead and download it. It's only £1. If you join Flourish within the next 72 hours, you'll also receive my shadow integration toolkit worth £33. All you need to do is just email me your receipt from joining Flourish and I'll send that to you for free. The early bird at the moment is on until the 15th of September. So at the moment it's £350 standard or £650 for the VIP. There's only 3 spots left for that. There are also payment plans. I know some people have financial constraints. If this is something that you really want to do, and even with the current payment plans, it's out of your reach, please get in touch, please talk to me. Please ask me if you need an extended payment plan. I've given a lot of those out in the past. I'm very open to talking about whatever you need to make this work for you. If you want to do this, I want to do as much as I can to help you do it. So if you want to do it, please get in touch with me. There's no judgment. Don't be embarrassed about anything. I've been in situations where I've been struggling with things as well. I'm a single mum. So please reach out. If you want to do this and it feels out of your reach financially, please reach out to me anyway, and let's see what we can work out. Here's all the ways that you can contact me. Here's the link to the program, Flourish. Here's the link to get your free chart. I'm going to pop the coupon code for the ebook in the chat now. So you can go ahead and just go to my website, so sophiedubus.com/decoded. I'll pop that in there as well. And use that coupon code and you can get a free copy of my ebook. There's lots of other resources and things like that on there. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me now, or if it feels like it's more of a private nature, then you can also just contact me on my socials or email me as well. But I would love to chat. I always love to chat about this. As you can tell, I can't keep it to 30 minutes, but I did keep it under an hour. So I hope this was useful for those of you that have attended live and those of you that are watching the replay. Again, if you have any questions, you want to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. Thanks for listening.